What's going on, everybody? Ty Bartell in with a basketball coaches corner. This time we go over to Trumbull County, home of the Howland Tigers. Boys basketball head coach Dan Bubon joins me today. Coach, how have the practices been? I guess we'll start there. I know it's not very much time so far, but what are the practices and everything looking like for the Tigers?
So far, so good. No injuries in other sports. That's always what you worry about this time of the year. Usually, we got some football guys banged up, but the schedule was beneficial this year. We had 2 weeks from the end of football until when we started on Friday, so that allowed some guys to heal up. So far, so good. Make our cuts today, which is the least fun part of my job. It's never enjoyable to go through that. You'd love to keep every kid, but fortunately you can't. So once we get through that today, we'll really start ramping up tomorrow and heading into the season.
I mean, that's got to be a good problem to have, though, because I mean, I've heard it both sides of the fence too, where coaches are struggling to get players in too. So I'm sure that's got to be a good feeling for that Howling community, knowing you got so many guys, so many boys that are interested in boys basketball still.
We do like that we have the interest. Nobody has it to where they used to where you
Mhm.
used to have a gym full of kids, but we still have enough that we do have to cut some kids. And our younger levels are pretty strong. We have a lot of interest in kids playing, so that is good because a lot of places are really struggling to even have teams at some of the lower levels. So it's a good problem to have.
So let's look at from last year going into this year. You guys were 12-12 last year, a 500 team, and I think this is like kind of a perfect crossroads going into this season. Wondering where are we going to see? Are we going to see a trend up? We're going to see a trend down. What do you feel about going into this season, and how do you turn some more of those L's from last year into wins and turn that into a winning record this year?
Well, last year's team, if you want to go back and replay our interview from the preseason last year, I was probably as wrong as you can be. Um, I worried about our toughness and our rebounding because we did have a lot of cross country runners, soccer kids, not a lot of big, strong, tough kids. And it ended up being one of the tougher teams I ever coached. I mean, they played to every ounce of their weight and ability as tough as they could. Well, we couldn't shoot. That I didn't think that would happen. We shot. I'm going to guess 38% on the year, and with the amount of close games we lost, I keep telling everybody like if we'd have shot 42%, which is not real good, we'd have been a 17-win team last year. Um, our last game of the year, we go up to Menor, who's a Division One powerhouse, and lose by a bucket at the buzzer. That team last year could play with anybody, but just our lack of shooting, some games we just couldn't put the ball in the basket. Um, so this year's team, I don't want to be wrong on this. I do think this year's team is physically tougher overall. They're bigger, stronger kids. Um, our shooting, I won't even guess. I don't know. I thought we were going to be a good shooting team last year and ended up being not so good. So maybe it'll be the flip this year. But I liked what I saw in the summer. We played well all summer. Um, we're still the 1990s NBA grinded out slow game. That's how we have to play. We just don't have the scoring to go up and down and try to play in the 80s. But we grinded out a lot of wins this summer, and I liked what I saw out of them. They kind of all have bought into the way we need to play. And to me, it's just going to be, can we shoot a little better this year?
And I mean, to your guys' credit, I mean, it's the way you have to play, but you executed at a very good level, good enough for you guys to get the wins that you have season in and season out. You talked about the practices, you talked about some kids that are standing out. What are some names that we can expect? I know you don't have the full roster set yet, but what are some names we can expect coming back this year that are going to make some impact with this team?
Well, I think that our top 4 or 5 are pretty established with this group. Alex Henry will be a 3-year starter at point guard. To me, he'll be one of the best players in the area. He averaged almost 10 points last year. I think he averaged 9.7 points last year. But he does everything for us. I mean, the ball is going to be in his hands when anything important is happening. And he's a good all around player. He's a bigger point guard. He's a strong kid. He can rebound. He can pass. He can put the ball in the hoop. And we're going to ask him to do a lot. John Perry's our post, was the quarterback on the football team. Johnny's 6'4", 6'5", averaged about 8 points and 7 rebounds last year. And I would say you could almost write that in this year. Johnny's going to average probably 8 points and 8 to 10 rebounds. And we need that because we're not real tall, even though we got some strong kids. We're not real tall. TJ Douglas, who came on a little at the end of the year last year, strong physical kid, can play inside and outside. I think he'll be the kid that shocks people this year. I think he's going to come out of nowhere. And along with Alex, I would guess those will be our 2 leading scorers this year. Then we have a junior, Anthony Sheffo, just all around tough kid. He probably won't be a big scorer this year, but he'll do all the little things we need: play defense, rebound, knock down a shot here and there. And then we got Chris Fenton back. Chris was going to be in our rotation last year, decided he didn't want to play basketball. Reconsidered that this year. Our district final team 2 years ago, Chris was in the rotation at the end of the year. He played in that district final. And then last year we thought he'd be in the rotation. For whatever reason, didn't work out, but he's back, and Chris can put the ball in the hoop. So those 5. And then after that, we got a whole gang of kids from some program seniors that are looking for their one good year of varsity action, down to some sophomores that I think are going to play some for us.
You talked about Alex Henry too, and that was one I was excited to see play this year too. And I mean, for a coach, and I know you've seen it all going into these practices and making the cuts as well, but it's got to be nice for you knowing that point guard position has a little check mark next to it, that you guys have a solidified person, a player that could take over that position and you can be comfortable with.
In high school basketball, unless you have a 6'8" dominant big guy, which no one around here has had for years, you want a point guard. If you're going to start a team, give me a point guard, and we have a chance. And in a lot of ways, I go back to this team. I hope can be like we had a team in 2018 that was a bunch of kind of kids like we have now, strong, tough, defensive kids, rebound. Then we had a great point guard named Connor Tamarkin, a little left-handed kid that just knew how to play basketball, scored when he had to score, got the ball to people, controlled the ball, didn't turn it over. So our formula that year was a lot of close games, play defense, rebound, get Connor the ball, and he'll make a play when we need it. And I feel like that this year it's going to be get Alex the ball in these close games, and I think he'll make enough plays for us that will pull out our share of games.
Talk about this AAC conference, because I mean, going into this year, it's exciting for me because I genuinely don't know who's going to have an upper hand because there's so much talent across the board. So many kids are coming back. How do you fare through this conference too, and try to see yourselves on top of it?
It's always hard to say because nowadays, whether it's us or anybody else, you don't always know who's playing basketball from year to year. It's kids getting multiple sports, then all of a sudden they decide they want to concentrate on one, and then you hear rumors, oh, this kid isn't going to play, this kid isn't going to play. And I always say I'll believe it when I see it, but that makes it hard to predict. I like that our conference doesn't start until January because we will get to see, who is playing and who's playing well for these teams. But, I mean, Fitch could have everybody back, basically. Canfield could have just about everybody back. Harding lost their best guard, but they got a lot of kids returning from a team that tied for the league last year. And then Boardman's always going to be Boardman. You're never going to have a easy game playing Boardman. They play kind of the same style we do. Those games are usually brutal. So there's never an easy game. Take last year, I don't know what we won, 2 or 3 games in the league, but we beat Harding, who won the league. We lost in the last second to Canfield, who tied for the league. Fitch hit a miracle shot at the buzzer to beat us by 1. And we split with Boardman. So we were right there in every single game, and we finished towards the bottom of the league. There's just no easy games.
I'm looking at your non-conference schedule too, and it seems like you guys have a decent bit of competition in the non-conference wise. Shout out a couple of matchups that you guys are going to be excited for. Maybe some that you're hosting as well that you think crowds should get out to see.
Well, we only have 8 home games, so I hope they come to all of them. We are 8 home and 14 on the road, but that doesn't bother us. We've always been a good road team, so that really we try to pound into their heads. It doesn't matter where you play, you still got to play.
If you want
But
to make a deep postseason run, you're on the road anyway, right?
absolutely, absolutely. We have 11 games in December, which is a lot. Like I don't think I've ever had that before. From December 1 to December 30, we play half our schedule. We play 11 games, and they're all non-conference. Um, so, I mean, we always play a lot of the better, smaller schools around here. The La Breys and Newton Falls of the world, well coached, good challenges. Some of the schools like to go out of the area and play schools, Akron, Cleveland, stuff like that. I think you can get competition in this area playing the smaller schools. That's never bothered me, and I like playing those games. And you get a little better crowd playing local schools. We play those guys again. We play a lot of the NE8 teams. We play Ursuline. That's always a battle every year. We got Cheney early this year. We got East early this year. So anybody in the area pretty much that is either if it's a bigger school, we for sure play them. And if it's one of the traditionally better, smaller schools, we play them. So you're going to see a lot of teams in the area. Outside of the area, we opened at Neshannock in a tip-off tournament. I don't know a ton about the teams we're going to play there. I do. The coach at Neshannock's a guy named John Corey, who used to be the head coach at Struthers. We laugh because our first games with varsity coaches were against each other. He was at Struthers. I was at Champion in 2003. So it tells you how old we are. But we're going there for the tip-off, and then we're going to Hudson over the Christmas break, which is kind of a non-traditional opponent for us out of the area. So we got a little bit of everything.
I had to make sure I was repping the Frank Buba Classic shirt for this
My
interview
guy,
too.
my old boss.
Absolutely, absolutely, Coach. Concluding with this interview, though, I wanted to talk about just where the love for the sport of basketball started for you, because I know I love this sport. My favorite sport every year, favorite one to call. I always love interviewing the coaches before the season start. So I'm curious, and this is going to be a running thing. I'm going to try to ask all the coaches, but where did this love for the sport of basketball begin for you? Do you have a pinpoint that you remember?
Well, two. Okay, when I was a kid, I remember watching the first NBA game I ever watched on TV. It was Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics. I was 6 years old. I thought the Bucks were amazing because I thought they had a reindeer as their logo when they had that little buck
Yeah.
shooting a layup. And the Celtics beat them, and I was so mad because I was rooting for the. I don't know. I was rooting for the Bucks, and then a few weeks later, the Celtics were on TV again, and I'm telling my dad like, "Oh, well, this one guy for the Celtics, he's really good." And it's Larry Bird, and then I just kept watching the Celtics over and over. And the '80s Celtics I loved, and then in high school wise, 1983 Warren Western Reserve. I grew up on the west side of Warren, and we always went to the football and basketball games. In 1983, Warren Western Reserve was ranked top 10 in the nation in USA Today. Um, that team was amazing. I think they had something like 80 dunks in a high school season. And I was 10 years old going to those games and just, oh my God, I couldn't wait for basketball. Love basketball. And it just continued from there.
I absolutely love the sport as well, Coach. I'm so excited to catch a couple of your guys' games this season. I know you guys are going to be an exciting brand of basketball to watch. And I mean, shout out the Howland Tigers, shout out the community as well. You guys are going to want to get out there. Like you said, Coach, only 8 home games too, but the road ones aren't going to be too far from home. So you can make sure
They're
and
all
get out
close.
there. Yeah, absolutely. Get out there and support the Tigers, Coach. We're going to be rooting for you. We'll be supporting you throughout the way, and I can't wait to get out there and see some games. This has been the first edition of Coach's Corner with the Howland boys basketball coach, Dan Bubon.
Thank you, sir.